Hello model car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. This is Ral, and this week I'm going to feature a build of a 70 Plymouth GTX here. This is part of Plymouth's rapid transit system, which included a few cars, the Duster 340, the Roadrunner, the GTX, and also the Fury GT, which I'd love for them to do a model of, but that one doesn't exist. But getting back to the Plymouth GTX here, this is the Highline version of the B-body, which included the Roadrunner. They shared a lot of the components, but not a lot of the options. The GTX had a lot of the higher end stuff, but you could get some of the GTX options in the Roadrunner. This one, I did it fairly loaded, which is how I like to build mine. This is a Johan kit, and it's a Hemi car, in case you're wondering. Staring at it and going, well, that kind of doesn't look quite right. Some of you might have been able to eyeball and notice what it is. This one's a pretty rare and unusual one to find nowadays, and I really don't know the full history of Johan at the time and what was going on. From what I understand, not really sure which one came first, if it was the GTX that came first or the Roadrunner. Promos of both of those did exist. They were making those. So I understand that the tooling from one may have started with the GTX and then it was converted into the Roadrunner, but promos where those were made, and they were only issued the one time, which is why they're so rare today. After that, they changed the tooling and came out with the Superbird, which I don't believe a promo of that was ever issued. The model kit was converted into the Superbird, and that's been reissued many times as the stock / race car, the Richard Petty car, and then later the Sox and Martin version, which I have built that one, and I have a video of that one. I also have a couple of the other versions, but those are much easier to come by than this GTX. Going along with this, one of the things, I tend to like to buy them and I build them and I tend to restore them. This one was kind of an unusual deal where I had purchased this one from somebody who had already restored it, and they did a very nice job. And I can't remember the gentleman's name. It was on Facebook. Frank comes to mind, but I'm not sure. I apologize. I didn't keep good track of that. But it was back in like 2017, and I was very excited. And I bought this one, and I also bought a 70 Roadrunner that he'd restored. And he did a beautiful job. He even painted it this same color. So I'm going to throw up some photos so you can see what I bought and what he had done. And like I said, I almost didn't want to restore this car because he had done a wonderful job. But there was a couple of things that just weren't my style. Plus, when it comes to model cars like this, I really like to do redo them and make them my own. I don't really like to buy somebody else's builds and have them on my shelf. But I have bought numerous builds of others and redid them and made them my own. And this one's no exception. But some of the things he did, you can see in the photos here, he did add the vinyl top. So he put the vinyl top on there, and he blackened the panel lines, which for me, I really don't like the panel lines that dark. It's just personal preference there. And he added an antenna, which was fine. I don't really do antennas. And there was just a few other things, but one of the things, if you look closely at the bumpers, you'll notice they're painted in some sort of paint that kind of looked dark and not quite chrome-like, like dirty chrome. I didn't really care for that. So I decided that if anything, I was going to add the decals that I wanted to add, because it didn't have the side decals. I really wanted to add these decals. And I was going to tweak a few things. And also, you notice it has the Magnum 500 wheels and the red lines, which I knew I was going to change that too. So I decided I was going to redo the car, and I pulled the bumpers off, and I sent them out to get re-chromed. I use Chrome Tech Bob. He does all of my chrome for me. Unfortunately, he's retired, but he's done a lot of my chrome. So back in 2017, he was still doing chroming. So I had pulled the bumpers off and the grill off of this car along with the other car. And I had a few surprises. The front bumper, the grill I should say, not the bumper, when I took it apart, a corner of it was actually broken off, and when I stripped it, the corner actually fell off. So the previous guy who rebuilt it actually rebuilt the corner, and he did a nice job. I didn't even notice it. But also when I was taking the chrome off, it chipped the paint. So I was a little bummed about that because I really liked this color. Now I understood he used gravity paints and he did it in Lemon Twist, which is the same color I used. But I didn't use gravity paints. To my surprise, once I chipped the paint, I'm like, alright, I'm going to strip the paint, redo the bodywork if necessary, because whatever's hiding under here, I will know shortly. So I stripped the paint, and to my surprise, these vinyl top moldings were coming off. However he attached them, they were glued right to the primer. So when I went to strip them, they actually started to come off. So if you look closely at the original photos, his roof molding, the roof molding I was able to reattach, and this one I reattached. I had to re-glue those and redo them. So they're not quite as sharp on here, or they're more sharp on mine than they were on that one. And I didn't darken the panel lines, I left them alone. But the stripes on the hood, I had to repaint those, which I was expecting that. I filled in the antenna, and I changed out the wheels. And to my surprise also, the grill insert that goes in the back on the Johan kit, that's a separate part. It actually was 3 pieces. When I took it apart, I thought I had broken it, but I realized it was already broken and he had re-glued it back together, and I had to redo all of that work. So I had a few surprises coming down the road for me. And so when I redid this one, there were some things I didn't change. Let me pull the hood off. Getting the hood off of this makes me a little nervous. But here we go. There's the Hemi engine. Now he wired it. I left the wires there, and the Hemi decals from what he did it. So I left that pretty much alone, as he did a beautiful job. And the inner fenders, you can tell, it's the Lemon Twist, but it's just a shade different from Scale Finishes. I use Lemon Twist, but I use Scale Finishes paint. So there's a shade difference. Now whether or not it's primer, because I used gray primer, and he may have used white primer, I don't really know. The firewall I did a little bit. I really didn't do anything to the firewall. I think I painted the steel on the booster and that was it. And the firewall he did, the overflow bottle, is all his work. And I just took it a little bit apart. Now on the underside, I've got some underside photos. I did redo the paint on the leaf springs and the exhausts, and I painted the headers to match because his headers were much darker metallic color. And then the black on the inspection cover for the clutch, and then the steel on the exhaust on the transmission, I repainted all of that, but I left the engine itself alone. And I redid the wheels, and added the AMT tires here, and then the wheels from they're actually Johan ones. I had some extra sets because the Superbird Roadrunner comes with them. And then I added these decals, which are Fred Cady, and I had them in my stack, and I knew I was going to use them. And I redid the vinyl top. I had sprayed that. That's painted. And I did a how-to on how I did that. This is another one I did that way. And then did all the back and the bare metal foil. Now I do remember one of these middle pieces broke, or it fell off when I stripped it because the glue let go. So any work he had done repairing the body, I had to redo some of that. And this one really wasn't that bad. It needed a little bit of body work to redo, but I like the super shiny chrome, so I did the chrome. I also added the exhaust tips from the 69 GTX kits. They use these exhaust tips. So I added those because Johan doesn't give you those. But I did keep the Johan mirror, kept that on there, and redid all the front. So all the chrome's been redone. And liking how this one came out, really surprised. The interior, I really didn't do much to the interior. It's as he pretty much built it. Although the brown and the wood, you really can't see in there. I did touch them up because, you know, I really wanted to brighten them up. So I redid the dash, the wood anyway, left the black alone, and used the silver and touched up a lot of the interior and all of my bare metal foil work, the GTX emblem and the handle, and redid all of that. So this one took quite a bit of work, but for what was basically an already restored car that I bought and re-restored. Oh, and it does have the airbox under the hood, which Johan gave you that. And then I had repainted the underside as well. You can see some of my overspray there from the black. But really happy with the way this one came out, and all the extra work I had to put into it. So sometimes you restore one, most of the time you pretty much know what you're doing, and you got a few things to fix, maybe a couple of surprises here. But these two by far were the best looking ones I'd ever bought, and it was almost a shame to redo them because the work was so well done. I just really needed to adjust a few things and make it my own. So I did tweak those things that I wanted to tweak. Really happy with what I came out with. But the fact that I wasn't able to save the paint, I had to repaint the whole car, redo the vinyl top, fix a few pieces of chrome. I had to repair the damage that was done to the corner of the grill and re-chrome it and hope it all stayed, and fix a couple other little things, but real minor. The other one, the Roadrunner, was holding some very big surprises for me, but this one was in a very nice shape. But I figured I would share this one with you and show you one of my restorations that I redid, which really wasn't for me a full-on restoration, but it was such a beautiful model, and at a price that I couldn't pass up, so I jumped on both of them, and really happy with them, and figured I would share them with you guys. And thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and hitting that bell button and all your comments. I really appreciate it. And you guys, you have a wonderful Saturday, and I will see you next Saturday.